Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cast Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with my dear friend, Dr. Bob Dickson. Dr. Bob was born in Tofield, Alberta in 1951. He's a proud father of Luke, who's also a resident of Calgary. Bob is passionate about traveling, and he admits to have a golf addiction. He's also an avid pickleball player and dancer. He retired from his family practice in Northwest Calgary in 2013 and maintains an active medical license and works at a weekly minor emergency shift when back from his travels. He is also passionate about human rights, and that's why we're here today. Friends, you'll find his full bio attached. Dr. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Catherine. I'm chatting with you.
I'm glad you're here. I know you've always had amazing feats to accomplish and things to do to fight for our human rights. What has been your biggest challenge in the last several months, or even 19 months, or whatever this long experience has been? What has been yours?
Well, as I'm sure you'll admit, it's been a discombobulating experience here the last few months, 16 or so. Particularly for us in the medical field, it's just a whole different way of relating to people and patients. When I came back from Costa Rica on the very last flight that WestJet flew in March of 2020, I came back to a whole different world, particularly different than Costa Rica. Sunshine and fruit and vegetables everywhere and beaches, and came back to a world that was locked down and in terror and in awe of this virus. And I remember the first shifts that I worked back in my clinic in Beddington. I was doing throat swabs in the back alley, drive-by throat swabs in full PPE and full protective garments, and with masks and face shields and gloves, and it was Orwellian. It was something very dystopian. So yeah, it's been a challenge, and so I, like virtually, I think everybody at that time in March and April of 2020, was encompassed and kind of intertwined, I guess, with the fear, and just didn't know where this was heading, what was happening. And then the cracks started to appear, and the humanitarianism started to come out. And since then, I've been delving in all kinds of information and looking right across the spectrum from the pro to the con side, and even delving down some deep, dark rabbit holes occasionally, trying to find a balance. For me, it's a lot about balance. And I don't believe the common narrative, just like I don't believe the common narrative in water fluoridation, which is one of my main passions in life, as you know. Trying to prevent water fluoridation from being introduced back into Calgary in the plebiscite in October 18th of this year. But I think it's much more overarching and over-encompassing than that. There's just so much to this, and I think we're being shown and taught lessons that are going to be extremely important for our survival if we indeed learn them, if we grasp them.
Mm-hmm. Fluoride's one thing, and then what's the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, some people will say fluoride's a very small thing. Like it's maybe irrelevant. It's not that important in the scheme of all the things that are happening. I can agree to a certain extent that it's not the biggest thing that we're tackling, but it's also very emblematic and symptomatic of what we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And that is that sometimes, in some cases, the powers that be, the hierarchy, are not always telling us the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Mm-hmm. Fluoride, I know that to be a fact because I've dealt with this for 22 years. And over those 22 years, I've gone thoroughly through the information, the science, the data on all sides. And science is being buried, science is being negated and denigrated. And that's not the way we should be treating science, nor our way to the future. If we keep pushing and pressing these things down and ignoring new things that are coming out, that's not true science. Mm-hmm. And so to use fluoridation as an example, there's excellent new science out. There has been good science for the last 75 years when it's been called safe and effective by the pro-fluoridationists. There's been good science against it. But particularly in the last 4 years, there's excellent new science coming out, particularly out of Canada. out of Simon Fraser University in the West, out of York University in Toronto. And these are top Canadian scientists, one of which led the way to get lead banned in the United States through the EPA. And this science is good. And it's been published in JAMA, for instance, the Journal of the American Medical Association, the pediatric division. And that's unprecedented. And the doctors there called this new science that they would never have believed unless they were seeing it right in front of their faces, to the point that they were saying that if my wife was pregnant, I'd tell her not to drink fluoridated water. That's a huge step in our world. So are we slowly starting to turn the ship around? Well, we certainly hope so, because fluoridation belongs in the Museum of Failed Medical Practices. And so that's where I'd like to put it. But again, there's bigger things happening, aren't there?
Yeah.
So there's bigger things to be questioned.
I agree. And I like your critical brain, so keep questioning.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, and climate change is another. There's a lot of deniers about climate change, but the new IPCC report that just came out yesterday shows that we are causing some major problems in the world. And if we don't kind of change our lifestyles and change our way of dealing with Mother Nature, we as a species is not going to survive much longer. Mother Nature will survive fine. If she flicks us off the planet, Mother Nature will recover quite easily. But if we keep doing the things that we're doing to Mother Nature and to our fellow humans, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So yeah, fluoridation is big, climate change is bigger, but I think the biggest thing out there is the fact that we are living out of fear rather than out of love.
No.
And to me, that just breaks my heart.
I do too. I agree.
Yeah. So somehow we have to learn to do that. What was the Marianne Williamson's book? Return to Love, her first book. Yeah, and that was the whole premise of that book.
It was amazing.
And she wrote that at something like 28 or 29 years old.
Yeah.
An amazing tome for someone that young.
Yeah.
But that message was, in so many ways and shapes and forms, we have to learn to live out of love rather than fear. So that's an easy thing to say. Oh, love, fear, well, we'll just flip back to love and there we go. We'll save the world.
Not easy.
What a difficult challenge that is for us on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So, but I think that's something we have to keep in the forefront and really keep as part of our daily journey, is every chance we get, live out of love rather than fear. So that's why, like as a medical doctor, that's why I still work the one shift a week. I haven't given up, even though I retired from my family practice, I haven't given up the practice of medicine, because I really think I can make a difference there for the patients that I see. And the main way I can do that is not to be an incredible diagnostician or to give them all kinds of great treatments. It's to treat each and every one of them with metta, with loving kindness. And if I can do that, I think I'll make more inroads than most of the things I can do as a doctor otherwise.
The positive impact that you've made. For the years I knew who you were and didn't know you until recently, I heard about Dr. Bob for years and the amazing impact you make on people's lives. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for that, Kat. Yeah, it's an interesting journey for sure. This is my 13th career as a medical doctor, hopefully my last, but never say never. But it's certainly by far the best career I've ever had. And I've had some very interesting careers, everything from a truck driver and a farm laborer, construction laborer, to an air traffic controller, to a childcare counselor, to a paramedic. So it's quite a varied, checkered past, as my mother used to call it. And but it's really, I think, helped me to develop more as a humanitarian family doctor.
Yes.
So I can relate to a lot more people.
That's exactly right. Exactly. And you back it up with science, which I love.
Certainly try to do that. Yeah. And that's what we're doing, as I mentioned, in the fluoridation battle here. And it's mind-boggling, actually, why the powers that be will not look at the new science. And my main answer to that is, well, they're afraid to be wrong yet again. Like, we've been wrong as a profession many, many times in the past. Well, we've gotten over it. We're still here.
Yeah.
But in this case, 75 years of saying safe and effective, repeating that mantra over and over again, every day, every hour of the day around the world. fluoridation is called safe and effective. Well, it's not. It's not safe and it's not effective. At the very most, it's 25% effective, and that equates to 1/2 to 1 cavity a lifetime. So are we going to be toxifying kids' brains, dropping IQ from 3 to 9 points, as much as tripling ADHD to save 1/2 to 1 cavity in a lifetime?
Right?
Not good
No,
science, not good
not good
medicine.
science. I'm with you.
So we have to turn that around and get people really looking at the new science.
I agree.
Alberta Health Services just came out less than a week ago, end of last week, and full support of community water
I
fluoridation.
know.
I like to call it artificial water fluoridation because that's a better name for it. We don't have to be topping up, as they say, that little bit of natural calcium fluoride, topping it up to these wonderful safe levels that save kids' teeth. Well, that is such a misnomer and so misrepresented. The calcium fluoride that's in the water, the aquatic life hate it. They develop fluoride exporting proteins to get rid of it. It's highly toxic. So do we want to be taking a highly toxic thing that's in almost all the groundwater in the world and topping it up with a waste product out of the fertilizer industry in Florida and China? Again, not good medicine.
No, not good medicine. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Bob. What do you see in terms of next? What's on the horizon for you? What other fights are you going to fight?
Well, I don't know. I'm getting a little old here to be fighting too much. I think I'm going to be working for peace. For this year, I think the main goal, of course, is to win the plebiscite on October 18th. And we're working really hard. I have an executive committee of 20 people working on that. We're fundraising for that to bring a very top-notch company from the States to help us with social media. So if we can win that plebiscite, we're going to win that plebiscite. We're maybe a little behind right now in the polls, but you know, people have come from behind in the polls before, to wit Mayor Nenshi twice in his career. And yeah, so good use of social media and just putting the word out person to person, group to group, is going to help that cause for sure. Because once people are educated that, yes, we can save 1/2 or 1 cavity, but you can fix teeth, you can't fix brains.
That's right.
So yeah, so if we can get that education out there to enough people soon enough, we'll win that plebiscite. And then that'll just be another nail on the coffin of artificial water fluoridation. There's also a big trial in the United States that you might or might not be aware of, that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the States, is being taken to federal court by several groups and by several individuals like pregnant women, but also by the Fluoride Action Network and Moms Against Fluoride and a few other organizations to try to stop this practice, because they're saying to the EPA, you are allowing one of the most toxic elements in the planet into public water. And that is indeed what they're doing. They're allowing that to happen. And that's their protective organization. They're supposed to be protecting people and their health. And so to allow a highly toxic element like that, equivalent to the toxicity of lead and arsenic, that's an important point too. If they're going to allow that, they should be taken to court and that practice should be stopped. So that lawsuit will be heard again in September, and we're hoping to have a ruling before the end of the year. But anyway, not holding our breath on that, because the legal system moves very slowly.
Yeah, it sure does. So does the healthcare system.
Yes, kind of in lockstep there almost. Yeah. So yeah, the winning that plebiscite would be big for this year for me, and then the end of water fluoridation everywhere. One of the things that we're told in Calgary is that, well, we're in the backwards, we're way behind the times, you know, let's get in step with modern society and put this fluoride in our water to save our kids, you know. Well, actually, we're in the vast majority right now without it. We've been out without water fluoridation for 10 years. And 95% of the world does not fluoridate. And 98% of BC and Europe and Quebec do not fluoridate. So Calgary is right there in with the vast majority. So all we have to do is maintain that in step with the majority.
Yeah.
And fluoridation, like as you probably know, there's many, many chemicals out there that are not good for us, that are harmful. Glyphosate would be Roundup would be a major one, but it's going to take us decades to get glyphosate out of our systems, out of our bodies, out of our land, out of our food, out of the whole ecosystem. But fluoride is such an easy one to deal with. In Calgary, we can just say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And in Edmonton, that's been fluoridated since 1967, Toronto since the 1960s, all they have to do is the city council would have to say, nah, too much information and science against this now. We're going to stop it. And then they turn off the tap. And then a day or two later, there's no fluoride.
Yeah, perfect.
And our bodies can slowly detoxify the fluoride that we've accumulated in our bone and in our neurological system and our brains, and we'll live more happily ever after.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Bob. It's such a pleasure getting to know you better, and I'm so grateful for all the effort that you put towards such an important subject, many important subjects. I appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Oh, you're most very welcome. And hopefully you can put up on your website some of our facts and figures. One of them is our top 10 reasons not to fluoridate, any one of those reasons should end artificial water fluoridation, but all 10 together should just kind of move it right off this planet. So if you could post that for us, that would be great.
We're happy.
And our website, which is www.safewatercalgary.com, which gives lots of ways to take action and has a lot of good science on it for people that want to delve further into the topic.
That's awesome. Is there a way to donate on there too?
There's a donate button right on the front page. Thank you.
Very
Yeah,
good.
we certainly need some financial assistance there because we're fighting the David versus Goliath fight, and we're not Goliath, by the way.
Yeah.
And
No kidding. Yeah.
So we need some help there. Yeah, we do have. David did win, by the way. So we have great hope that would be the case too.
Agreed.
So my last message would be let's open up society. Let's get back to where we really need to be with that human connection, with communication, camaraderie, and with the love that's required to move us ahead as a race, as a society, as a world. So yeah, let's, I know you're working hard on that, and I appreciate what you do. And I'm going to do the best that I can too in that regard.
You do every day. Thank you again, Dr. Bob.